Alright, so until I fix stuff. There we have this Friden STW10. It's actually probably one of the most common Friden models. I seem to get all, well not all, but a lot of the rarer ones first. But anyway, got one now. It's not, the keyboard's not locked up, so it's probably not in a cycle or anything. Some stuff does concern me, however. You can see the screws are pretty rusty, and there's a bit of corrosion on the adjustment pointer, so I don't know what we're going to find when we take the covers off. The covers themselves don't seem too bad, and the keyboard doesn't seem too bad. There's a little bit of the white kind of mold or corrosion or whatever you get sometimes on these keys, but it's not that bad. But it's a lot of stuff's rusty. Kind of interesting too. If you look at the screw here, there's like a ring around it. I don't know exactly what caused that. It's kind of weird. Almost like it ran down from that. Kind of strange. Like it doesn't really was left outside in the rain though, as far as I can tell. So I don't know. This is stuck, which is interesting. This one's fine. It's like if you put a number in there, clears out. If you can read the numbers, because they're pretty dirty. So anyway. Start by taking off, let's take off the carriage cover first, get a look at that. So we'll get a preview of what we're dealing with here. I have to take off, these are the locks for clearing, so if you don't want to clear one register or the other, you can turn these, or you should be able to turn them. I'm not going to turn out because it's all messed up, but so when you push the clear button, you can disengage one or the other or both registers from clearing if you don't want to clear the results out. Let's see, these are going to come out of here. Probably should get a screwdriver that's the right size. That would be useful. It's coming out, not too bad. Okay. I need to take this off as well. This is a split thing, so if you only want to clear half the register, you can turn this, disengage from this pointer over from clearing. If you want to have like a running total or something in there, you can use that for. Alright, so let's turn this way and take out these two screws here. Now, it's not entirely surprising that the case itself isn't that rusty because this is an aluminum case, so it would corrode, not rust, but I mean the paint's pretty decent shape. It should lift off, theoretically. But you know what? I think I forgot. So you might have to take the screws out. There's a little release. Oh, it's off now. Yeah, so this one I forgot about. You actually don't have to take those screws out because there's this release inside here that releases. You can pop that off, but oh well, I'll put those screws back in then. I was thinking of the older models where they don't have that and you have to take the screws out to get it off. But anyway, so that's out. This is really nasty. Look at that. I've never seen, that is impressive. Never seen a machine that bad before. Let's see what's up with this. So this seems interesting. First issue is this seems like it's stuck somehow. See if I can rotate this. Yeah, so that's, there it goes, now it's free. Actually that might come off of there. That seems like dried grease, which is probably a sign of things to come. That doesn't sound good. Right, that's a lot of dirt. So it seems like something's messed up with this particular digit here and its clearing apparatus. Looks like it wants to re-engage itself. So that'll have to be looked into. And overall, this seems pretty stiff. Almost like, I wonder if this got bent down somehow and is pinching that shaft. Or that sliding thing rather. See if we have to take that apart. Trying to see if I can lift this up a little bit, but I'm wondering if either the shaft itself is bent or one of the teeth somehow got mashed down and is binding against the. So you can really see that, but as you can see right there how the rail there is shiny, almost like this shaft is pinched and rubbing against it. So you can see when it gets to the tooth section, it tries to drive this. So that'll have to be looked into. I can't believe how, I don't know if that's mold or what that is. That is worst I've ever seen. Okay, let's keep going. You can see we've got some lovely shipping damage here. Get this side off. These do have screws on the bottom. I'll have to lift this up to take those out. This and then there's two screws here, which at one point had rubber grommets, and you can see that there's that one just disintegrated. It's pretty usual, what you'd expect. Well, down here we'll take off the, maybe, take off the screw from that side as well. Grommets stayed together pretty well. So did that one actually. You see the sticker is gone. There should be a sticker there that says STW and has some patent numbers, but we can also see right here, say STW10 and then the serial number. Flip this back down. Let's turn it around this way. See if this should come off more. Alright, well, it's not completely rusty. Actually, doesn't really look that bad. Not sure that's dried grease or a little bit of rust around that, but overall not too bad. Alright, let's take a look at the other side. Take off these screws here. Well, maybe. See if this one will come out. No. So again, there's some help from my good pliers here. There we go. And it didn't break off. It's fine. I'll go back in, try the same thing on this one. Yep, that one's going to come out now. Starting to smell funny. Musty. Here's the insulator thing that goes here. I guess they did that, you know, in case the case wanted to rattle against itself. I don't really know. As far as I think Friden is really the only one that did that. But on all their machines, they always had rubber you know, at least going back to the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, they all did that. I think the 60s ones did it too, I'm not exactly sure, but okay, so what do we have on this side? Again, not too bad. Aha, that looks like a mouse nest. That's not a good sign. So we'll find, let me go deeper. Alright, let's take the back. So for that I need to flip this up. I should have taken the screws off while I was down here, but I forgot. That's because they're not. Oh, they. There are no screws down here. I thought the back had screws on the bottom. So we have to take these off, that's why. I was thinking it was screwed in on the bottom like the sides were, but it's not. Take these out. I'll bet you this will clean up, or like if the paint is actually off there. That's interesting. Yeah, it's a mouse nest, kind of. Looks like it tried to be a mouse nest, and the mouse kind of threw some stuff together and gave up. See if there's a bunch of corrosion around here. I don't see any yet. Now the pan here isn't all rusted or corroded or anything. See if the motor turns. See if any of these wires are chewed. It's interesting. Usually when you get a mouse in here, they do all kinds of damage. Everything's all rusted and all the wires are gone. So I can get the bottom pan off, probably get the rest of that out, but this is almost weird. It almost looks worse on the outside than the inside, at least so far. You know, if a mouse ever living in here, I would expect all this whole bottom here to be all rusted out. I'll have to get the bottom thing off. Let's see, can we reach the motor? Well, we can reach the mouse infested side. See if the motor turns. Oh yeah, it turns. Huh. Alright. Well, I'm going to continue picking this apart. Actually, what I'll do first is I'll flip this back around and take the front panel off so we can get a look at that. So, got the screw here. This one here. And then we'll have to take off all these little knob things here. See if we can get those off. And then there's screws also in the front here, which have to come out. Those out, see if we can pull any of these off. Yeah. It's probably the one that doesn't have to come off came off. And none of the other ones will. Alright, I'm going to pause for a moment and see if I can fight all those off, and then we'll come back. Alright, so all those little knobs there are off, so we should be able to just lift this right out of here, hopefully. There we go. Set this aside, it's left of the. Yeah. So there's a bit more rust here. So that this is the decimal reset. See how that's spring loaded? I don't know, I should have mentioned it, but that's not looking so hot. What was I going to say? There's a brown plastic thing here that's supposed to slide. That was jammed all the way over, but must have just gotten detached from this because this is free. So the idea being that if you set these, this will reset them. I'll let that is. Multiplier is not looking so happy. At least the digits on it. So if you look down in there, the shaft that slides on seems fine, so just these will have to be cleaned up. It's pretty nasty. Hopefully they'll clean up without the paint coming off. I don't know actually if these are just painted on or if it's a plastic thing attached to the steel rocker, so I'll have to see some dirt in there. Overall it doesn't look, the mechanism itself doesn't look super terrible, at least not yet. Looks dirty, but at least so far I don't really see any rust. So just for fun, see what happens. I got stuck there. Yeah. Kind of works. At least it's not completely jammed. I kind of got stuck there a little bit. Seems to function, it just looks horrendous. I just don't know if it, I don't know if it fully functions until we actually test the machine out, but sometimes you get these and these things are just completely locked up, they won't slide at all. And you have to get down, there's a pivot, right here's the end of the pivot, so you watch that enter, you're going to see that moves over slightly. This is the spring that actually pulls on that to push this over. And sometimes that pivot gets seized up, and then this won't move at all, and you have to kind of work that free, but we're already ahead there. Just looks pretty terrible. Alright, so probably the next thing I want to do is get the carriage off. But I want to take a closer look at what's up with the clearing here, and just get a view of what's underneath it, if anything concerning is under there. And when I first test the machine, I want to do it without the carriage on anyway. So, carriage, I think I should be able to slide it off. So this is actually not right. So you can see this thing is off on this side, and this is bent over here. So it looks like that's received some shipping damage. I'll take that spring off there. See if we can. This is not good. So now this is kind of jammed in there. Fortunately, I'll have to see if I'll probably see if I can what I can take apart to get that out of there, and see if I can unbend everything. This, yeah, it's not going to move. So, all right, let me play around with that and see if I can get the carriage off. Now, I was playing around with this a little bit. I was able to get this rack piece out of the back, and when I did that, the carriage still wouldn't slide properly. So taking it off, putting it back on a couple of times, I realized that the issue was, by the way, this is one of the cleanest I've ever seen one of these up here. Usually these things are all, covered in grease and dirt and everything, but this one, look how shiny they still are. After, what, 60 years? Maybe even 70 years. It's kind of 1949, I'm not sure when this exact one was made, but anyway, what was I going to say? Anyway, the issue was these things here, which of course now I can't, actually there we go, are the carry trips, and some of them were tripped. I think what was happening was they were hitting on the bottom of these, which are the flags that tripped them. So when this wheel goes past 9, see how it pokes that, well, I could see if I was showing it. Every time it goes past 9, it pokes that thing, and then that finger there will push this down to set the carry trip. So when I reset all these, and pop this back on, see it now slides. It's a bit sticky obviously with the dry grease and everything, but it does slide. And actually this has reset now, is free again. I think the issue there was the carriage had gotten jammed either over too far, or the pressure put on by this piece being bent was somehow shoving this into something or adding pressure to this, which was relieved when I got this out. And now this is free, and if I set, it clears them. So now this one doesn't want to clear. Do you see if it clears if I take this off? If I take this off, no, it still doesn't clear. So it's probably just stiff from all the dried grease would be my guess. But anyway, I'll set that off to the side for now. Yeah, I can't believe how clean this is up here. This is, like I said, the cleanest one I've ever seen. Really surprising. Especially because, look how dirty this is, which is not horrendous, but there is quite a bit of dust on there. Yeah, this is, almost perfect. It's rather surprising. And these are in pretty nice shape too. They're pretty clean. This whole thing slides nice and easy. The issues with before where that thing gets kind of sticky and doesn't want to slide. See? That one rotates fine, rotates. Oh, rotate fine. Yeah. Oh, rotate fine. It's kind of surprising. I thought some of those would be stuck. So that's what I've seen on. Because these ones won't move because the timing. If you look here, these little pieces here have little cutouts in them that go against flats in the Leibniz drum that is down there, which you can just barely see the top of that right down in there. That gray thing is the top of the Leibniz drum. Now Leibniz drum has machined surfaces on it that will go against those flats to prevent overshoot. So once it's done adding, as soon as it gets past the last tooth on the Leibniz wheel, the flat will engage with the flat on here to stop this immediately and prevent any tendency to overshoot. Now these ones all turn because the flats here are not lined up with the flats on the Leibniz wheel, but over here it just so happens that when the machine's at rest, they line up there, so that's why these ones won't turn. I'm trying why these ones. I don't think these ones don't have a Leibniz wheel, so I'm not sure why those ones won't turn. I'll have to take a look at that. But this one I believe is actually I'm not sure if you can see, but barely see down in there. Right there is like a dip in the Leibniz wheel, and then there's a line that starts the flat that engages. So that's why that one won't turn, because right now it's engaged. So far the mechanism itself looks pretty good. What we can do is see if it will actuate. There's a bolt hole on the side here in the main shaft. I'm going to stick a bolt in there and hit the plus key and just see if it'll turn over. I'm thinking it should. What I want to do also is go in here and wiggle the Leibniz drums, so I'm not sure if you can see. Yeah, I'm just going to show up a little on the camera. So my finger will get down in there. Not barely. So you can see, maybe, see it wiggling. You can kind of see it wiggling there a little bit. So what I want to do is go through and wiggle each of those and make sure that they're free, because sometimes they have a tendency to get sort of sticky and not to move as well. So I'm just going to go through and wiggle each of those, and they seem pretty free actually. So what I'm going to do is get a bolt to stick in the side here and hit the plus key and turn it over manually and see what it does. So I got a bolt installed here. I got 1, 2, 3 set, so if all goes well, you should see these ones here rotate. Hit the plus key. We won't, because the plus key doesn't want to engage. Yep. Well, I should have checked that first. Alright, so something's locked that out. So let me figure out what has locked that out, and then we will try it. I don't know why this is locked up yet, but I did trip the clutch by pushing this little lever here. And actually almost able to turn by hand, but not quite. You can see they moved there. And the keyboard cleared. And now the clutch is disengaged and the main shaft is locked. So that's good. I have to lock the main shaft in order to get the timing of everything right. You can't let this freewheel. So that's locked. The clutch should be disengaged, so I should be able to turn this wheel freely, and I can. Just the motor is resisting me. So yeah, that looks good so far. I gotta figure out what's at a time, what the machine thinks it's doing that it has locked that. And obviously gotta see if I can clean that out. Actually, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to get it. That is part of the sticker. The beginning of the model number, the ST, that's part of the W. This is AC, 110 volts, whatever. So, not sure what Mr. Mouse thought he was doing with that. If he even could get in there, not really sure. The owners are squishy, so wherever they can fit their head, you can squish the rest of their body in there, but I'm not even sure if its head would fit in there. So, anyway, figure out what's up with this, and then we can try some operations here. Hopefully nothing in the carriage motion section is bent out of shape and will cause an issue, but we'll have to, because you can't push these either, so I'll have to get that all freed up so we can push, I almost wanted to go there. Hey, it went. And you can see that moving, can you see that? Yeah, you can see it in the camera. Of course, this key is stuck down, so ideally this would pop back up at the end of the cycle. There it goes. Now that's locked again. Oh, that's good. This is still stuck there, so I have to figure that out. But so those are, well, at least that one is. See if this one. That should go the opposite direction now, which it does. And finishes, locks, pops back up. Good. So that's good. So we just got to figure out addition and subtraction, and of course, division and multiplication are going to be fun. Yeah, put all the dirt down in there too. Okay, so that's positive at least. And this, didn't seem to work. It didn't seem to have any issues, at least that I can see. Like something's got bent way over and all out of shape, and this is all tight now. It's actually fine. That's good. Alright, so we're down at the bottom here now. That's the bottom of the machine. And this piece, let me get something more appropriate to point with. This piece right here is the bottom of the plus key. So you see when I push on that, that goes down. And you can see it's hitting right on the corner of this piece right here. And that is an interlock. You can see when something else gets activated, that will slide back, so you can't push any other keys. And unfortunately, it's not returning all the way to its home, and that's why the plus key doesn't go. Now that, as you can see, is controlled by this. So it looks like this rod here is not going up all the way. And it looks like that is at least partially connected to something on the front here that may or may not run, because there's a shaft that runs all the way across here, and it looks like it might be pinned on that. So I'm not sure if it's an issue with this piece here or something all the way over here. So I'm going to keep digging there and see what I can figure out. So I was looking at that for a while. I realized that the piece that I was interested in actually is not one of the ones that's pinned to the shaft. So turns out that it was just dried grease in there, and I've now loosened it up. You can see this is that pin before that wasn't going all the way up. Now it goes all the way up and it's nice and free. So just some dried grease in there. So let's go back up. And now I do 1, 2, 3, hit plus, See, that seems to work just fine. This locks in, key releases, keyboard clears, that pops back down. It should stay in the middle there. And then if I do minus, see now it comes down, and then it'll pop back up to the middle. It pops back up. A bit stiff there, it doesn't pop up quite as fast as it should, but put some oil on different stuff here and see if we can get some stuff cleaned up. And hopefully that will be fine. Another thing that was causing an issue was, I'm sure you'll be able to see this not right down in there, there's a little pin that can slide either way. And when that was slid down like this, and that was blocking it. Now, oh actually, okay, so now when I push the key down, now it slides up. Before it wasn't wanting to move at all. I gave it a little bit of a push and then it moved. So I thought maybe that was controlled by something else, but it seems like maybe you're just stuck with dry grease, because now see it popped back, but as soon as I push the key down, it goes forward. So that might have just been a case of dry grease, and I'll actually be okay with that. So, okay, maybe that's all that was. Should be fine, hopefully. So addition and subtraction work. We know that these work. So now you're watching this. That works. Carriage clear. Can I try that? I'm looking at what trips when the carriage gets to the end, because they're going to have to manually trip that. And right now, I think it's this. Possibly. And that feels kind of sticky, so we'll not try that for right now. What I'm going to do next is take the bottom off and looking at the rest of the mouse out. And something also interesting that I noticed, if we shift this all the way over, I was doing some picking down there. You can actually see that some of the fuzz is actually wrapped around that shaft. So it seems like somebody actually ran this machine with that in there. Although, you know what, it actually could be for me. Let's see, does that stay engaged all the time? I hit plus and then run it. Okay, that's probably why. That's for me. Never mind. That's my fault. I thought initially maybe that disengaged when it's not using multiplication, but it does not. So that's probably how that got on there. So I thought maybe someone had actually run the machine with the mouse nest in there, but actually it's probably just from me playing around here. So probably next to take the bottom off, try and get down there and pick the rest of that out and get the rest of the mouse stuff out, and just get a general idea of what, if any, sort of damage we do have. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Like, usually when you get a mouse and something, everything is all, you know, nasty and corroded, but on this thing, the outside actually looks worse than the inside, so it's really kind of odd. Around to this side, you can kind of see some like sticks, not really sticks, but some kind of like, you know, plant material down in there, kind of, if it would focus. And there's still some stuff down in there, some more plant material. So yeah, the bottom of this should come off, and then hopefully get the rest of that out and go from there. You know, you're supposed to negotiate with the mice and keep them away. You are the bigger rodent. Well, the more that I look at this, the more confused I am. You know, there's just, it's way too clean, and there's no chewed wires or anything. And there's no mouse turds either, so I really don't know whether maybe it was like a bird or something. It doesn't really make any sense. It just seems too clean to be a mouse nest. And like I said, no chewed wires. Like, that's the first thing they go after, is to chew all the wires. It just seems very odd to me. So maybe you're off the hook. Now look at this. You know, right under in here is where the mouse nest is, but there's no sign of corrosion or mouse pee or anything. It really doesn't add up for me. Not quite sure what happened here. There's little sticks to it, so I'll have to clean those out. This is most of what I pulled out. Well, like I said, you know, there's no mouse turds or anything. Like, this is the bottom plate, just have to dump out. But look what's on it. It's just dust and some fluff, but no evidence of mouse pee or toads or anything. Very strange. I don't know what happened here. The only thing I could think of is that a bird got in and made that nest, but I didn't think birds usually, squeeze into small places like that. To be that small. When this was on, when the cover was on, really the only space that I noticed would be like back here at the power cord, or maybe if that dent in the front happened earlier than shipping, but I don't know, it doesn't add up for me. I don't know what's going on there. I still have to pull the couple pieces off of that got stuck on the shaft there. And then probably what I'm going to do is start doing some, at least cosmetic cleaning on some of the numbers, so at least you can read them. And then maybe clean up the tracks and reinstall the carriage perhaps, since we know that addition works, and I can get the rest of this out of here. But yeah, the more I look at this, the more it doesn't make sense for it to be a mouse. I just don't know what it was. Alright, so we are making some progress here. As you can see, I've cleaned up the multiplier register display there. I'm not really sure exactly what that stuff was that was on there. It felt like wax, like it was, kind of like waxy type consistency and flaky. I just used some water, and for the really thick pieces that wouldn't, flake off with just the Q-tip and water, I used the pick a little bit to flake it off. But I really don't know exactly what that stuff was. It's kind of weird. Obviously, I'll have to clean up the keys, but I did take this outside and blow as much of the dust as I could out. Cleaned up this thing here, the counter increment and carry, with some lacquer thinner and a Q-tip, cleaned all the dust off of that. So I'll squirt some oil in each of those, even though this is pretty free, which not usually, but some of the Friden machines I've worked on, this thing gets stuck to the shaft. I think when we looked at this last, we had shifting, subtraction, and addition working. And I've been playing around with the multiplier section, so now, if we enter, say, 1, 2, 3, hit the Mult key. What it's going to do is, because I've hit Mult and not Accum Mult, Mult will take the carriage all the way to the home position, clear it, and then proceed with the multiplication. So, you can see everything there. When I start this going by hand, you can see it shifting, trying to get to the home position, and when it gets there, this will trip. You can see now it started counting down on the multiplier there, and now we're at the end. So it seems to be working. So like I said, this will shift the carriage till it gets to the home position, and then when it gets there, this, which is still bent, I have to fix this. Actually, it is free. This will be hit by that one of the pegs on the rotating thing when it gets to the end, and it will roll up this ramp, which will cause this to rotate like that, and then this plunger here hits that platform, which I guess you can't really see. It's this right here, and you can see the little shiny part there where it was been hitting it. Hits that, pushes that down. That's the trip to let the machine know that the carriage has reached home. I think this should be going at the same time. I'm not sure that it is. So, that mustn't. Okay, I see. It got locked. That's why. This is what will clear it. That locks like that. Anyway, so like I said, this will take to the home position. I think this should be operating all the time like that, trying to clear it. And when it actually gets to the home position, it will in fact clear it. I'm not sure why that latches like that. I don't think the other earlier Fridens I've worked on did that, but anyway, not important. So like I said, I'll get to the home position. At the same time it gets to the home position, it'll be clearing. Once it hits that trip, it will then actuate the actual multiplication to begin. Now if you hit Accum Mult, I think it will still take it to the home position, but it will not clear it. And then neg Mult is the same as Mult, I believe. I'm pretty sure neg Mult clears out the register, and then just as a multiplication, but instead of adding, it subtracts. That's all that does. And then Mult clear will just clear out the multiplier there. So like if I enter, say, 1, 2, 3, and then say oops, and then hit mult clear. Well, it should have anyway. I wasn't going fast enough. If you get it going fast enough, it will actually clear those out. I didn't have enough momentum. Let's try it again, if I can get going a little bit faster. Well, it still wasn't fast enough. I've gotten it to work at least once. We'll have to see if it's going to be reliable once the motor's installed. It can go even faster than I can with the hand thing. But so yeah, pretty satisfied with that so far. I don't think I'm going to try division until I put the register back on, and the reason for that is because there's just too many things that have to happen in sequence for division. Because basically what's going to happen is it's going to subtract until it gets a underflow. Basically, you subtract too many and it carries off the end of the machine. At which point, one of these two tens carry trips here will trip, and the machine will read that and then do the addition. I'm not sure if it reads it again to stop the addition cycle, or if it always just does one addition cycle. I'm not too sure about that. And then it will shift and then carry on. But like I said, I'm not sure exactly if I can do that, manually tripping things on. Rather just wait until I put the carriage back on. So we'll do that then. So yeah, we're gonna squirt some oil into this stuff. I do still have to clean up the carriage over there, but as you can see, so far it looks like it should clean up. Cleaned up this, or most of this digit right here. You can see it was just as bad as that one, and now it's not too bad at all. So I'm going to do some cleaning on it, and started cleaning up a little bit of the counter register, and that seems to be looking like it's going to come back just fine. So hopefully we'll be okay there. And everything more cleaning and oiling on that before I can put that back on. Oh yeah, so what was stuck in the multiplication section? So first thing that I noticed that was stuck was this. Let me get something to poke. Was this thing right here. So as you can see, this, if I get the right thing, see how that rotates on that shaft? And you can see it's got a long finger that goes down underneath that's attached to it. So that rotates on the shaft like that. That was seized to the shaft, and what that was causing was it was causing the decrementer not to engage with these the multiplication register here. So the way that works is, you can look right back here. This thing right here is a little finger, and when you're doing the multiplication and it's actually in the multiply stage, this whole piece rotates forward so that this little finger can engage with ratchet sections on the back of each of these. You can actually see right here is the top end. You can see how there's a ratchet there like that, the ratchet section. So every cycle, that finger goes up and down and ratchets these one position towards 0. And then when it gets there, it hits this trip, which trips it to shift over to the next position. So what's happening was, because that was seized on that shaft, this guard here wasn't allowed to rotate forward so that this finger could engage with the ratchet. So I had to loosen that up, and then it was able to reliably engage and count down for every cycle. Another thing that was stuck, not really stuck, but just kind of sticky and slow, was this shaft here. This shaft runs all the way across to the machine and actuates the main clutch and the motor for a multiplication operation. So this shaft rotates, I think it rotates, actually not this shaft, my mistake. This is the shaft that it was stuck. I think this rotates forwards, I think. Not really sure. Anyway, so the issue there was at the end of the multiplication cycle, the spring was unable to pull this back to disengage the clutch, so the machine would just keep running at the end of the cycle. So just a little bit of cleaning and some oil on that shaft freed that right up. And now, as you saw at the end of the multiplication cycle, it stops reliably. There was one other thing which I'm not sure I'm going to be able to show because it's all the way down in here. But there is a catch. There's a catch down in here, and the purpose of that catch is through some convoluted linkage that runs all the way from back here all the way to down in here. That disengages the register shift. So what was happening was, well, before I fixed this, at the end of the cycle, the register would keep trying to shift over and over and over. And the reason was because what's supposed to happen in the cycle is the shifter is supposed to disengage and then latch disengaged. But because the latch up here was stuck, it wasn't latching. And like I said, I don't think I can get in there to show that, but down in there there's a little catch that catches a piece that rotates on a shaft that runs through some linkage all the way down to here. And just, oiling that, freeing it up, now that latches reliably and it disengages the shifter. So the shifter itself, which if you want a better description of this, you can go watch my Friden Model S video, the older one, about the black case with the yellow and white keyboard. That one I got a bit more in depth into the multiplication unit on that, but if we just shift this all the way over, you can see down in here there's a ratchet on this, which is attached to the register assembly, and then there's a little wheel thing here, and this wheel thing can slide up and down on this shaft, and then a little finger in there, and when this rotates around, the little finger comes out, and if this is up in line with the ratchet, the little finger will grab into the ratchet and pull this over as it swipes past. And when it's disengaged, then obviously the finger still comes out, but it's not in line with the ratchet, so it doesn't do anything. So that's supposed to latch into the disengaged position when the machine is not being used, or not when the multiplication part is not needed to shift. So yeah, just to clean up that latch back there and getting that to latch reliably, fix that issue. So see if Molt Clear will work this time. Hey, that worked. You just gotta get enough momentum for it to really throw all those forward far enough to latch them. So all that happens is this bar here swipes forward and pushes them all forward, but if you don't get enough momentum, it doesn't throw them quite far enough for them to latch. But that time it worked. So hopefully with the motor running, and it will have enough momentum to do that. So yeah, I think the next thing to do is to finish up on the carriage. So I'll have to unbend all the bent parts and obviously still do the cleaning, but yeah, so far things are looking up here. Alright, so I have reinstalled the carriage. The machine is alongside because I have it sitting on something so that I can turn this ratchet around without hitting the table. Anyway, the carriage is back on. I still have to put the one hold down here on yet, and actually I should probably put a spring. There's a spring that goes on the floppy thing. Just it is. Let me just put that on just in case it needs that not to get stuck on something. Alright, that's reinstalled. Okay, so let's see what happens if we do a carriage shift. That seems to work. Now at the end, it should just supposed to do just cycle through, but it seems like we are misadjusted in some way. I don't know if that piece is bent. So the issue is, you can see this thing is trying to rotate, but since we're at the end, it's just trying to ramp up on this little ramp and cause this to lift up, but this can't go down because it's hitting on this right here, which it should not be. It should just be hitting on this piece, and see, that's free. This doesn't move, so I wonder if either I don't have it lined up right, or if the carriages, or that, not the carriage, but that other piece there is bent somewhat. I wonder if I can just tweak that a little bit. Okay, so just it pushed past it, but I'm gonna have to adjust that, I think. With these things, you can there's a little bit of adjustment here, so you can see how, like, this is a screw with a nut on it, lock nut, So you can, I'll have to turn this one in a little bit to move this over slightly, I think. Actually, how do I think about that? Maybe this is just a little bit bent. I have to double check, but I'm actually not sure if that would fix it, because that's moving this relative to the carriage, not relative to the base machine, so it may actually be a problem. Anyway, let's just see, 1, 2, 3, and that adds in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, helps if I push a button. 7, 8, 9. Keep doing that. I mean, you're so used to like crank machines where you just turn the crank, and my brain is imagining this as the crank, but it's actually a supplement for the motor. Anyway, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we go 3, 3, 0. That is correct. And you can see we've counted 6 operations there. So I won't be able to do the clearing because of that issue. So let me pause and see if I can adjust that somewhat. And then we'll come back and try some more stuff. I think we are good now. I'm pretty sure that this thing was bent. You can see there's a bit of a mark on the back side. I think if I can caught up in the, crunch zone of whatever happened up here when everything got all messed up. So I'm thinking that's probably what happened there. So I just ended up bending it over a little bit. And now, as you can see, it, let me see better this way. You can see how this piece drops down to hit that lever and then swings back up like it's supposed to. So that's how it's supposed to work, and I think we will be fine. So we did, okay, yeah, so let's see now if carriage clear will work. That. Yep, just a little bit, because of the spring tension and everything. That's why I slowed down cranking it, but yeah, it seems to work. The key did not. Oh, there it goes. So the key's a little bit sticky. And of course, this counter didn't clear because we have this piece out, which is the lock for clearing. So without this in, when this whole thing slides over to clear, it won't catch the counter one. So that's why that happened. Okay, let's try some multiplication. 625 times 625. Why did that do? Did I enter that wrong? Let's try that again. 620. There it goes. You gotta put some oil in there. Okay, 625 times 625 should be able to do mult. Figures out, and it's multiplying now. And it's done. 390625, yep, 625, yeah. So that seems to have worked. All right, do carriage clear again. And that time the key popped back up. Of course, the counter still didn't clear. Okay, do we want to try our luck with division? Probably would be nicer to try out the motor first, but let's just see what happens. 355. I'll enter dividend, see what that does. And it does nothing. Well, it's not engaging the shifter like it should. So it should have engaged the, the shift mechanism to start shifting this over, and it did not. So, okay, so I'll have to look into that. Or at least we know that multiplication should hopefully be good. It seems to be good. Carriage shifting, addition, subtraction, carriage clearing, all that stuff seems to work. Just looks like we're going to be, we're going to have a fight with division now, because even if once we get this working, they still have to test out actual division. So, yeah, that's probably going to, so far looking like it's going to be a fight. Can't even get past step 1. But anyway, probably should have one of these set first. I don't think that'll make any difference, but yeah, this is not trying to stop the cycle. So, all right, I'll have to look into that, but yeah, at least you got most of it working. course, I mean, if it works with this, it should hopefully work with the motor, so I'll try that out, but yeah, so far so good. I've been playing around with this for a little bit. I think division might be working, sort of. Still haven't gotten this enter dividend working with actual division. I'm not exactly sure if all the issues are worked out yet because I was having some issues. Well, first of all, I'm having issues where the carriage doesn't always lock into place when it shifts. Now that could be because I'm turning it by hand and it doesn't have the momentum that it would have, being driven by the motor, or it could be a sign of another issue. Additionally, it seems like sometimes the carries don't always propagate across, and I'm not sure again if that's parts being stuck. It really shouldn't be because that's all like positive driven for all the carries, so I'm not quite sure about that. But after playing around with it, I did get it to go through a division, not like a full division, like from all the way over at the end, but a couple digits. I'm not sure like how reliable that's going to be. Anyway, so let's shift over. Thought we would anyway. Let's try and clear it out, do that. Let's shift over 2 places. So now so you didn't quite lock in there. Now it's locked in. 355 got entered. We'll add that. So that's now added in. 355. We'll clear out the counter. Do 113. And now what's going to happen is it's going to shift over, and it should lock in there. There it goes. So that first shift over sometimes doesn't always work properly, and you can see we didn't get the right result. So something's up there. Try it again. So that first shift over. So what it does is it shifts over one position ahead of you, does the first subtraction, and then if it trips, then it continues division from there. I guess they did that in case you didn't line up, like in case you entered a smaller number on the keyboard than what you have out in the carriage. Like say you entered like 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 or something, but only entered 3 on the keyboard. Normally, during the normal algorithm, that would like start subtracting in this column, and it keeps subtracting and subtracting until it finally subtracted, from that like 50,000 or whatever to get an underflow, which is a very inefficient way of doing it. So that's probably why they did that. Like it'll subtract and then, it didn't get an overflow. Then go to the next column and then subtract, think get an overflow, go to the next column, and then so on until it finally gets an overflow, and then start the division from there. So that way it's not, sitting at one column subtracting a tiny number from a huge number for forever. I'm assuming that's why they did it anyway. Let's try it again and see if we can get a better result this time. 355. This is locked in. 355. 113. Figure that out. It didn't quite lock in quite properly there. So you ended up with an extra 1 here, which is not correct. See, the thing is subtracted, got a funny result there. So yeah, something's up. I think some carriers are getting lost somehow or something. It's kind of weird. I'm not quite sure what's going on. Try it again. One more time. This is locked into 355. So what it should do is it should shift. See, it did a subtraction here. Now it's shifting over. Yeah, something's weird here, and it got an extra 1 there somehow. So I think somehow some carriers are getting lost or something. It's very odd. I'm not quite sure what the deal is. Let's just try it one more time. So you subtracted once there. Yeah, see now it's really messed up. Now it's going all the way over. See, carry's not propagating past that point. Well, maybe it's not supposed to, I don't know. But it seems like sometimes it doesn't, like see, it didn't cancel out these when it added back. So I'm not quite sure exactly why it's doing that. Try going a little bit faster, see if that helps. It did help. Now it's working. 3.14. So I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm not going fast enough, but I really don't see how that would, you know, stop the carry propagation. This whole thing seems very odd to me. Try it one more time fast and see if it works. Let's try it out. It's locked in. Go a little bit faster. I'm gonna hit my finger. Yeah, see, that time it's wrong again. So something's getting lost somewhere. Almost. I got an extra one there. For some reason, it doesn't always clear that out. It's very odd. So, still some work to do there, and like I said, some work to do with this. This still doesn't work. Figure that out, but I'm really not sure what the deal is with division. You know, usually when machines don't do division, they'll get like stuck in a cycle because some spring-loaded thing isn't, you know, activating the next step because it got stuck or whatever. But this is a really weird one. Like, you know, it's like carriers are getting lost or something. Very strange. So, you have to look into that, and hopefully then we can, I think that's pretty much the last thing. Everything else works on this machine. Yeah. Okay, so we are making some progress here. So if I do 355, see it now enters that in there. Clears the keyboard, of course, 113. And you'll notice that the answer is not quite correct. So we've got, it should be 3.141592920. But instead we got 3.252602920. So the digits that are wrong are just one more than they should be. And you notice that the last digits are correct. So what that says to me is even though the answer is wrong, like it matters how it's wrong. And what that says to me, that the last few digits are correct and every other digit that is wrong is just one more than it should be. And actually this looks like it would have been a 5, except that this was a 9 and carried over. So this digit would have been correct as a 5, but because this was one more, that's why I carried over there. So that's why that's like that. Anyway, what that says to me is that somehow the counter is being disabled during the add back when it overflows. Basically, I'm sure you know how this works, but basically the machine will subtract until it gets an overflow, meaning it carried off the end of the machine, it'll just subtract it too far, so it'll add one back and then not add, you know, whatever on the keyboard back one time, and then shift over. So what that says to me is that the counter is being disabled or not counting during that add back cycle for some reason. There is a counter disable on this. I think one of these controls does it. Not sure which one. This one I think is repeat, but one of these two turns off the counter. And it also turns off the counter during enter dividend, so it doesn't have to clear that extra one in the counter out after it's entered dividend, because it actually can't do that. There is no automatic control on the machine for only clearing the counter, and furthermore, you can only clear the counter. You can only automatically clear either register when the machine's in the home position like this, which I always thought was kind of weird. that Friden advertised themselves as like, the best calculator money could buy, and yet they had that weird limitation on the register clearing that, as far as I'm aware, no other manufacturer has. I mean, Monroe, you can clear and either register independently or together in any carriage position. Same thing with Marchand. And I believe Monos is the same, I think. I don't actually have a Monos, so I don't know for sure. But I just always thought that was kind of weird that they have that limitation. And because of that, they have these manual clearing things here, which, by the 1950s, not many other machines had. Monroe got rid of manual clearing when they had automatic clearing. And Marchand did too, actually, even back in the 20s. So, anyway, just kind of rambling off here now. So anyway, my point is that there is a counter-disable control in the machine. And like I said, it actuates during enter dividend and when you flip one of these controls. Not sure which one. Let's see. One of those knobs. This one, I think, the non-ent one. So maybe this control might disable the carriage. I have to check, but anyway, it should be in the enabled mode, because if we do an addition now, you'll see it counts. So let's try that. So let's switch this down, and then let's do another addition. Okay, no, that's counter direction. So now it counted up. So that's the counter direction. So now it counted down for addition, and it'll count up for subtraction. So it must be this control. So let's try. Yeah, that's it. So now with this control down, the counter is disabled, nothing gets entered. So, anyway, what that says to me is that somehow, or the most likely scenario that I can think of is somehow the counter is being disabled during the add back during division. Not sure why it's happening, but I'll probably have to take the carriage off to look at that, because that control is right down around in here is what actually actuates. Basically what it does is that long bar in the front underneath the counter register, that rocks back and forth to actuate or to count, and basically that the counter disable basically locks that bar from moving, so it can't change the counter contents. So that's my theory anyway, that somehow that's getting actuated when it should not be, and refusing to correct when it does correct the underflow, it refuses to update the counter to match that. So that's what I'll look into next. Probably take the carriage back off of that. Yeah, otherwise, I think we're pretty good. Oh, so what was the issue with the enter dividend? So the issue with that was, if we come around to the back side here. So this is that end of travel trip. I said this gets pushed down when the carriage reaches the end of its travel. And so that was working fine for the shifting. Like when you shift the carriage all the way to the end, this will actuate and stop the machine from trying to shift it any further. Same thing for when you do multiply or clear. It was working as a trip like that and stopping the machine once it got the end position and cleared. When it hit the multiplication, it would trip it to start the multiplication when it got to the end position and cleared. But the issue was, for enter dividend, that is supposed to actuate a catch all the way down in here, which I don't really think I can show you. But what was happening was this was not getting actuated far enough to actuate that catch for enter dividend. So it's kind of weird that it was working for every operation, except it wasn't moving far enough to actuate the catch for enter dividend. So anyway, all that I did was I bent this little piece here, the little piece that moves. I just bent this up a little bit, and that seems to have fixed the problem. As you saw, now it seems to work fine. So yeah, that's all that it was. And again, I'm going to assume that any damage that may have been inflicted upon that was just due to the mangled mess. And actually, this is still bent a little bit. I should bend this over that way a little bit so it's a better grip on this. But yeah, I was assuming that all the carnage in here was just from the carriage getting shoved and shifting or something, kind of bent all that stuff up. So hopefully all that's rectified now. The only thing I can tell that doesn't work now is that counter operation for division. So look into that, and hopefully that'll be about it for this one. So notice any similarity between that and that? It's kind of funny. Friden's, they called it the RotoFlow one-way drive. It's actually based on a design that had been on the market for 100 years by the time this machine was produced. Colmar started manufacturing his thermometers in 1850 or 1851, and according to the serial number, this machine was manufactured in 1953. So that was kind of funny. The Friden made a big deal out of that. I had to turn the handle to get it to stay up like that. But anyway, it was kind of funny that Friden made a big deal out of the RotoFlow one-way drive, which is actually just an enhancement of the thermometer. Okay, so I think maybe we are getting somewhere now. So if I do 355, enter div, goes over and it enters it, and then if I do 113, now I see we've got 3.141592920, which is the correct answer. So the issue seems to be this carriage adjustment, these two, this bolt here and this bolt here, which adjust the relative position of the carriage when it locks in to the rest of the machine. It seems to be a real touchy adjustment. So the reason why before we were getting one more than we should have gotten in some of these positions was because the way the counter increment works is you can see that each digit here has these little cutouts in it. Right here you can see there's like little fingers on there. And the way that it works is that silver bar in the front here slides back and forth and also rocks back and forth too. So when it wants to increment the counter, what it will do is it will slide over, then it will rock backwards. And that's to decrement the counter. Yeah, to increment the counter, it will rock backwards and then slide over and then rock forwards. And what happens is it rocks backwards into one of these notches, and then when it slides over, it rotates the actual wheel, and then of course it will come forward and slide back to its original position. To decrement the counter, it will slide over first, then rock backwards into one of the notches, then slide over to decrement the wheel, and then go forward to its home position. What was happening was, when it slid over and rocked backwards to lock into one of the notches to decrement, it wasn't going over far enough to reach the notch, and so it was just kind of gliding across the surface of the middle peg there instead of actually locking in to decrement the wheel. So what I did to remedy that is I adjusted the relative position of the carriage so that the carriage was moved over this way a little bit more. Therefore, when that finger slid over, it would be in line with the notch to go in and decrement the wheel. Unfortunately, that also exacerbated another problem which I was sometimes having, where when you did enter div and it shifted the carriage over, when it got to the end, it wouldn't finish shifting the carriage all the way. So you can see that there's this little finger here which locks against this peg on the shift wheel, whatever you want to call this thing. So what's happening was it would get to the end and then it wouldn't quite lock in. So this peg would be, out somewhere like this and like right up on top of that lump instead of locked in. And what would happen then is when the machine tried to add or subtract or whatever mathematical operation it was going to do, because the carriage wasn't locked, the driving force from the mathematical operation on the carriage would actually move the carriage somewhat, and then it would add incorrectly and get all out of whack. So I think I've got it the best I can get it. I'm not sure that this is going to reliably latch in every time. So, maybe just have to be when you do enter div, just give the carriage a little tap on the end to make sure that it's all the way locked in. And the reason for that could be any number of issues, really. Because we had that damage here on the rack and everything on the carriage. So obviously the carriage took quite a big hit to cause that damage. So it could be anything from the carriage is bent slightly to the frame is bent slightly to any number of things, really. And with this adjustment being so touchy, I'm not confident that everything is bent exactly back to the shape it's supposed to be. So any number of issues or multiple things like that could be compounding each other to cause that problem. I really don't think I'm going to spend any more time on trying to figure that out. I'll probably run this machine a bunch of times and just see how common that problem is, and if it's going to be prevalent, then just every time you do enter div, just give the carriage a little tap to make sure that even this is somewhat loose, which I think is normal for Friden machines. A lot of my other machines are like that too, but it's just kind of weird that and they would have that much play. And actually, see, there's a little bit of play on this side, and a lot more on this side. So it could be that whatever hit the carriage here actually bent the frame somewhat, so that the rails are closer on this side and wider on that side. Any number of things like that could happen. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call this good enough, because once you start getting into wondering if you should bend the frame or not, and you do bend it and then it makes it worse, then you're really in trouble. So I think rather than try and do anything about that, I'm just going to leave it as is and just say that given the damage here and this is what we have to work with, this is just what we're going to have to live with. So as far as actually working, you can get answers and everything, and they come out right now. So I assume we're just going to have to be satisfied with that. So hopefully now I can put the covers back on. I still have to clean up the keys. You can see got oil all over them, which is just what happens when you work on these things, playing around with them. So I had to clean up all the keys, and the 0 key still has some of that white stuff on it, so I'll clean that off too. And then hopefully we can put the covers back on and do a final demonstration on this, and hopefully that'll be it for this one. Alright, so you can see I got the covers back on. Obviously not the best cosmetic condition. Keys cleaned up decently well, I think. There's a bit of dust here I have to blow off from the rag I used to clean, but not too bad. Obviously some paint worn off here and there, but yeah. Anyway, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 7, 5, 4, 2, 1, and that is correct. We can also do subtraction, so we have like 45, and want to subtract 9. There you go. So multiplication, obviously do 625 times 625. There we go, 390, 625, that's correct. So for division, we can do 355. I've got tab stop 9 set. And 113, and if it latched in, this should work. And there we go, 3.141592920. That is correct. So yeah, obviously these are pretty corroded. Potentially could take these rails are just screwed on. You can take that off and should be able to slide these off and repaint them. I don't know if I'm going to do that. Probably should actually have the whole case repainted and these screws either repainted or replaced. My new theory for some of the funny looking stuff, like here on the side there, starting to look to me like somebody went around and sprayed those with WD-40 or something. Because you can see, like, it's just there's like a spot there, and then there's a drip running down. So that's the only thing that makes sense to me, that someone would want to spray this WD-40 or something, and then that messed up the paint and then ran down, and it messed up the paint where it ran down too. The only thing I can think of. So, I don't know whether someone was planning to work on this, sprayed these, and then forgot about it, or someone sprayed these, took them out, took one look at the inside and said, no way, and put it back together, or what? I have no idea. You can see that the paint is just messed up here too, like it's flaking off there, and obviously the rubber spots on the front. And so yeah, also maybe do repeat multiplication. So say we had 625 entered there. Now we can put this in repeat mode, and if we do say 625 here and hit multiply, you can see it pops back up there, and we can multiply again. Let's do a cum mult so it won't clear that out. Actually, we can just do this. Oh, this is a bit stiff yet. There we go. So if we turn that down, it won't be able to clear the upper register, but it'll still clear out that bottom register. So if we hit multiply again, I forgot it cleared the keyboard. Let's try that once again. So now we'll put something on the keyboard this time. I forgot that it cleared the keyboard after the first multiply, so that's why I didn't do anything that time. We'll leave this set up as it is, and now I should multiply 625 times 625 and add it to the result. And so that should now be 2 times 625. And then we can clear this out. Okay. I think that's about it for this one then. The only real concern that I have left is how reliably is the carriage going to latch in when it does the div tab. Like I mentioned before, sometimes it doesn't always latch in at the very end. This time it seemed to, but as far as reliability, I don't really have an answer there, so just have to see how it goes. Oh, and this is fixed now too, so you can see these are your decimal points on the keyboard, and this thing resets all of them, and that was messed up initially. So yeah, obviously this side of the case is still pretty beat up. I tried to beat it back into shape somewhat, and I think it helped a little bit, but it's still kind of bent in the front here. So it's not perfect, but really the only operational problem that I see is that questionable latching when it does the div tab, but other than that, I think it should be fine. Yeah, kind of funny actually. This is probably the most common Friden model. This is, I think I have like 5 other ones that I got before this. Something like the Model F you hardly ever see. So, and actually this is one of the more expensive ones too. I actually paid a lot less for my Model F and my Model S than I paid for this. But anyway, so I think I have enough yet. So this represents basically Friden's top of the line from 1936 until 1952. 1952 they count the SRW, which is the square root one, which I don't have, unfortunately, because they're obscenely expensive when they do come up. But starting from let's see, can I point on the camera? That right there in the back is the Model F. That was Friden's first machine to offer multiplication and division. Model C before that offered division but not multiplication. I think Model D might have as well, not too sure. But anyway, you can see, if I point on the camera again, you can see right there is the on-the-fly multiplier like Marchant had. So you just hit the keys one at a time there, and each time you hit a key, it multiplies by that number and then shifts over for you to hit the next key. And then next to that is the Model S right there, and that was the first one to introduce the multiplier register with a separate keyboard multiplier unit down there, which was Friden's multiplier solution from then up until the end of their mechanical calculators. Not exactly sure what year they came out. It might have been 36 as well. I know the Model F was 36. Not sure about the Model S, whether that was 36 or somewhat later. And then in 1940, they redesigned the Model S, which is this one right here. Gave it the new Art Deco style case, which you can't really see, but it has the nice chromed corners, which I like. So that added some enhancements to multiplication. Allowed basically in the original Model S multiplication, the multiplication in that one always works like a cum mult on the later Fridens, where it doesn't clear the carriage first, it just goes right into multiplication wherever you happen to be. And then in the redesigned Model S, they changed that, so when you need to multiply, it would return the carriage to the home position, clear, and then begin the multiplication. So that was an enhancement there. And then the one next to that, which is this one, the Model ST, added the div tab automatic division setup with the tabulator. Other than that, it's pretty much similar. You'll notice that on the Model S, or in this Model S, it just has one lever for division. Get a better look at that. You can see the lever right there for division. The redesigned Model S has two levers for division, and the Model ST has two buttons for division. Now I've seen different permutations of that. I've seen the redesigned Model S with just the one lever, and I've seen the Model ST with two levers instead of two buttons. The two levers and then two buttons are for negative multiply. So if you pull the lever on the original Model S, just the single lever, it'll just do you regular division as you'd expect. On the redesigned Model S, if you just pull one lever, it does a negative multiply where the counter shows the complement of whatever the answer is. If you want to do a regular division, you have to pull both levers. And then the same type of setup for the Model ST. If you want a regular division, you have to push both buttons. If you just push one, then it does a complement divide, which is the same carried through all the way through the rest of the machines. That's why they all have two division buttons. I've heard a theory that the reason Friden did two buttons was because somebody had a patent on only having one button. But it doesn't really make sense when you take into context the Model S having two levers. So clearly they had come up with the two lever design before they even thought of buttons. So I don't see how that could have factored in. But anyway, we're getting off track here. So we've got the Model F, Model S, Model S redesign, Model ST, and then in 1949 they redesigned the Model ST into the Model STW. Which added some more enhancements like the repeat multiply, more advanced counter controls. Because on this one, you can turn the counter off. On the ST, you can't. Then in 1952, they came out with the SRW, which is basically similar to the STW, except that underneath the keyboard clearing row, that row of white keys down there, have a small row of brown keys with numbers on them, and when you press one of those brown keys, it extracts a square root up to that many digits. And then in 1954, they came out with this machine right here, which is the ACG, and that is similar to the STW, except that it has this additional transfer mechanism here, which does not do a transfer to the keyboard. It does a transfer from the accumulator into the counter register. You can do that either a negative transfer or a positive transfer. And in addition, it has these, not sure if you can see really well, but it has some dial twirlers there are a different color. And the reason for that is there's some kind of automatic rounding thing where you can set up those digits to always be 5 when you clear them. And it's supposed to help with automatic rounding in some way. I haven't actually looked into how you actually use that, but that's why those are like that anyway. So in 1959, they came out with the SBT, which is pretty much the same as the ACG, except that it also has keyboard transfer. They added another lever down, I think right around down there, and if you pull that, it transfers the accumulator to the keyboard, which would be a pretty nice feature. That was in 59, I don't have one of those. And they also come out with a SQW or SQT, something like that. And that had automatic squaring along with the automatic square root. And then in the 60s they did another redesign. They came out with some more models and different stuff. But anyway, like I said, this represents the top of the line from 36 up until 52, because I don't have the SRW. And the ACG, while it's more advanced than the STW, I'm sure that was not considered top of the line over the SRW. That little back transfer is nowhere near as advanced as automatic square root. So anyway, I probably have about 300 pounds of calculators here now. These are maybe not quite 50 pounds, but close to it. So now I have to put them all away. Hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.